whatever I can find out of what I'm working at. And also when I'm working on, helping the community, I get these wood fences and pickets that I feel that they are somehow connected to the hurricane, and some people might, identify with it because that they be part of the destruction.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for everything you're doing for the community. I think it's going to help some people. Appreciate it. And he met the person who he built this with, guys, at the Surfside Tower collapse. Really, really difficult time. A lot of people are starting the grieving process, and similar to the rebuilding process, it's going to take. We'll send it back to you, Eric.
Wow, such a meaningful, heartfelt tribute. Just amazing. And the cross is made out of the wood debris. So symbolic. Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and meanwhile, flooding and damage from Hurricane Ian also having a major impact on Florida farms. Deacon Dairy Farm in Manatee County, about 60 miles south of Tampa, lost more than 250 dairy cattle. The family is calling this the worst storm they've ever seen, and they're now working to rebuild. Joining me now is Jerry Dakin, the owner of Dakin Dairy Farms. And Mr. Dakin, if I could, I want to first say I'm sorry for your loss on a personal level. I know that these dairy cows are your livestock, but you grow attached to it, right?
I mean, it's just not me; it's my brothers too. I mean, he's lost over 350 cows. We've never seen anything like this in our life. That cattle got stressed out so bad during that storm because it sat on us so long, and it was in shock. And it's just I don't know how you describe it. Pictures don't do it justice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just look at it. It's tough.
Yeah, I realize the pictures, as bad as they look, they really don't do it justice. Do you have any idea of how your loss, the loss of your cattle and your brother impact business and productivity?
At this time, we're just working to get the cattle that are alive, get them back in order, and get consistency back to them cattle there, because they're still. We still got cattle that are in shock, and we have a lot of damage to the feet and everything. So it's just we've got many vets coming in here helping us. I mean, the people that are outreaching to us is just amazing. The people across the United States, it's just been it'll make you cry because of the people that's out there that will help you and everything, and we're just so appreciative of all of that.
A lot of good people in our country. We can't forget that. Listen, Mr. Dakin, your family farm, the Dakin family, has been milking cows in Manatee County, Florida since 1973. You're coming up on 50 years. Your farm is sustainable. The health and diet of your cows is priority. But again, I know you're focusing on the animals, and I'm glad you are, of course, with the help of vets coming in from across the country. What's the state of your farm right now, and what do you think it's going to take to get it up and running again?
We're up and running. We only shut down nothing for about 10 hours. That's all up and going and everything there. The cost to get us back up, and we just don't know the numbers right now. But it's definitely. We got to keep agriculture in America, because food's one of the greatest things that America has, and we've got to support farmers, and devastation happens all over across the United States, and where the farmers need help, we've got to support them, because the day we can't feed our people is a day that we'll be a weakened country, and we've got to keep agriculture in America.
That is so true. I'm so glad we're bringing light to this part of this story. I mean, my aunt and my uncle have a farm, and I know she is the person who runs it, and she talks about this all the time, about sustainability of our own food. Meanwhile, you've got the Dakin farm there in Market Cafe. It's a supply hub for the community. Tell me more about what you're doing.
What we did there is they needed a place to have a hub to bring feed to. Because I bring stuff too, so I just teamed up with them, gave them a place where they could bring it in there, so they could distribute that to other farmers and people that has animals, horses, and dogs and stuff there. That it's people have spent so much money on so many other things there, and it's just one thing that we can help them out with, and just being there for the people there. And the community, we're kind of a distribution center for people to bring food and everything there, and then, you know, being in it, we're able to distribute it to other locations and everything that's where it's needed and everything. People want to give. The biggest challenge with these storms is people don't know where to give at and everything. And we're just a place that we're just, it's our local market here, and we know where to go with it.
Yeah. Well, the Red Cross helps out, and many companies are helping. You're right. People do want to give, and that's what's great about our country. You know, we cannot forget about you there in Florida. We can't forget about the people in Puerto Rico either. Mr. Jerry Dakin, thank you so much, and good luck to you, and Godspeed to everyone there in Florida and Puerto Rico. Thank you, sir. Eric?
Thank you.
Of course, we wish them the best. Well, mass protests in Iran are putting more pressure on the autocratic Islamist regime in Tehran, prompting many to ask, could this be the growing anti-authoritarian movement that could finally be the tipping point that brings down the Ayatollah, Lisa Daftari, and the potential of overthrowing the regime next.
Your heart is the beat of life. If you have heart failure, entrust your heart to Entresto. Entresto helps improve your heart's ability to pump blood to the body. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. And don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or Aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
Get top dollar and sell your home fast with the very best real estate agents. At Ideal Agent, we thoroughly research top agents in your local market. We analyze the results. We personally interview them. Create commission on your behalf as low as 2%.
I think to be able to call Ideal Agent somebody who's already vetted the agents and have somebody that is top notch, I say it's a whole lot of work and a whole lot of worry.
Call today or visit idealagent.com. The best agents at a great commission guaranteed.
It's a cat. It's an old cat. It's an old cat.
Some things leave you guessing, but not MailChimp. MailChimp takes the guesswork out of email marketing by analyzing millions of data points from the billions of emails we send to offer personalized suggestions for how to improve engagement and revenue. Guess less and sell more with the #1 email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and my employees and I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. With everything going on right now, your rest is so important. That's why we're having the biggest MyPillow sale ever. Not only are my bed pillows as low as $19.98, but you can get the best body pillows ever. Regular $89.98, now only $29.98. Take your rest on the go with our Roll and Go Anywhere MyPillows for only $14.98. And we have our new couch and accent pillows. They aren't just for looks. They have MyPillow's patented adjustable fill that gives you that amazing MyPillow comfort. In this economy, you get the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you get deep discounts on body, couch, bolster pillows, and so much more, including my original bed pillows for as low as $19.98. Please order now while quantities last.
Can the key to a healthier diet fit into just 6 capsules? Yes. We start by sourcing the best vine-ripened fruits and vegetables in a vacuum cold process, maximizing the nutritional value while preserving the color, smell, and taste of the fruit or vegetable. These are then mixed into our proprietary blends and then encapsulated, then bottled and shipped right to our customers. Start now by going to balanceofnature.com and don't forget to use discount code FOX News.
In the world's worst places, children with cleft conditions live in darkness and shame. They're shunned, outcast, living in pain. You can reach out and change the life of a suffering child right now. A surgery that takes as little as 45 minutes. And your act of love can change a child's life forever. Please call or visit operationsmile.org now. Thousands of children are waiting.
More Russian missile attacks have decimated an eastern Ukrainian city. Apartment buildings were completely leveled in Zaporizhia as missile strikes killed at least 13 people and injured dozens more. Meanwhile, Fox News journalists were the first to enter a newly liberated Ukrainian village just 2 days ago. Trey Yates is one of them, and right now Trey is in Kharkiv with more. And Trey, I understand that you and your crew just heard another round of air raid sirens?
Yeah, Arthel, good afternoon. Some air raid sirens here in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv. Some large explosions over the weekend as well. Many large cities across Ukraine continue to be targeted by Russian forces. We were able to visit a freshly liberated village in the eastern part of this country just yesterday. We were the first journalists to enter this area amid ongoing battles. I do need to warn our viewers, some of the following images are graphic. The sound of outgoing artillery pierces the air of Haloshkivka as 70-year-old Natala Lashina hugs a Ukrainian serviceman. The village she calls home now sits along the eastern front line. The ground she uses to grow vegetables is now soiled with the blood of Russian soldiers. The bodies of Russian soldiers still lay amid their destroyed positions. Ukrainian troops took over this land, recapturing their territory. But as you hear in the distance, fierce battles continue of the Kharkiv region. You stand here, you hear shelling, and you're shaking, Natala says. How to express this? Fear, only fear. The nearby city of Kupiansk was also occupied by the Russians for nearly 7 months, before being reclaimed 4 weeks ago. On the road into town, next to graffiti of the Russian Z symbol, lay the remains of a civilian, a more accurate emblem of this gruesome war. Shattered windows and battered buildings line the streets. Behind broken doors, a look into life under Russian control. Inside this government building in the town of Kupiansk, the remnants of the Russian occupation, a Russian newspaper, and Russian flags inside and outside of the building. Fruit sits atop a desk, an indication of how quickly Russian troops fled when the Ukrainian counteroffensive began. And in the halls where Russian President Vladimir Putin was praised just last month, the man responsible for this unnecessary and unjust invasion is referred to only as a creature of destruction. I don't think humans act like this, one Ukrainian soldier says. You have to be totally sick to do this to a country. As we entered these liberated areas with Ukrainian soldiers, people on the side of the road were waving and smiling. After months of terror under Russian occupation, they are finally free. Arthel?
I mean, it's so heartbreaking yet so powerful, Trey. You're reporting, absolutely just bringing it to the hearts of the people watching your reporting. Thank you, Trey. Take care.
The murderer, the butcher of Tehran, Raisi, maybe says that there are signs that the Holocaust happened. I know, my family knows what happened during the Holocaust. And I mean, it's a consensus in Israel. We will do whatever is needed to stop the Iranian regime from acquiring nuclear capabilities.
That's Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, speaking with me after he walked out during Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi's speech at the UN last month. And he also, in our interview, warned about the regime's brutality, continued terrorism. We are seeing that playing out right now against the Iranian people of the country. Mass protests in Iran continuing against the theocratic regime. Many young people angry over the theocratic restrictions, the activism sparked after the death of Masha Amini in police custody, now in their 4th week. Human rights groups say the violent crackdown has so far killed 185 protesters, including 19 children. Lisa Daftari is editor-in-chief at the Foreign Desk and joins us now. Lisa, we've been looking at horrific scenes. The reports that the regime just cuts down protesters in the streets. One guy was sitting in his car. Horrible brutality that exposes the inhumanity of this despicable and dangerous dictatorship. How long do you think these protests will continue, and can they continue?
Well, they're not going home anytime soon. This is the bravest, the most courageous we have seen these protesters. This was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. And of course, the catalyst being that innocent 22-year-old girl who was just showing a little bit of her hair. There are so many like her and so many victims of this regime. And that's what the protesters are saying. This is, in fact, led by the women of Iran who are saying all we want is freedom. But they are backed by men and people all across the country in every city. This is a pure grassroots movement that is not attached to any religion or any city or any political group. This is a pure movement of the Iranian people who have just one message for the world, and that is that they are fighting for their freedom, and they will not back down anytime soon. This is truly the best chance that they've ever had to topple this regime.
What can the West do? What can the White House do to give that a push to help them to get rid of this regime once and for all?
Right, the most important question, because they're asking for support, right? They're asking for the mainstream media to cover this. They're asking for all kinds of support. So it will start with that verbal support, but we just can't stop at the podium. The next step will be for the United States to back away from the JCPOA, from the nuclear negotiation table. It's one thing, like Robert Malley, the Iran envoy for the United States, said this week, we are not going to support regime change in Iran, even though we do verbalize support for the protesters. It's one thing to not support regime change. It's another to give them billions of dollars. Do you really have to support them? Do you have to support the money that the Iran regime will put back into the Revolutionary Guard, into the besieged forces, into the morality police, into Hamas and Hezbollah, and the list goes on and on. So the United States has to understand the gravity of legitimizing this regime by giving them billions of dollars, by giving them that handshake and letting them off the hook for so many of the human rights violations. And the third will be to creatively come up with a way to give resources, organizational resources to the protesters, to give them the catalyst for the next step in this movement to continue.
President Obama during the Green Revolution was seen as making a real blunder and mistake. Critics saying that he had an opportunity, could have had an opportunity back then. What more? What could President Biden do right now, as well as others, as you say, to try and support that? Besides, I mean, he's not going to get out of or try to get out of the Iranian nuclear deal. I mean, on one hand, he's for human rights, on the other hand, he wants to give them billions of dollars. So realistically, folks watching right now, what can we do?
We'll continue with the support. I mean, Eric, I thank you for bringing this to people's attention. And after I was on with you on Fox News last time, I got so many messages thanking Fox News and thanking you for giving this airtime. Continue sharing the videos. Those who are at home, continue with the hashtag. This is a human rights movement. It's a pure movement, as I said. This is not something that's political. It should be bipartisan. It should have support across the board. The Biden administration or the Trump administration or the Obama administration, doesn't matter who's in office. This is for the betterment of the world, to stop the biggest global supporter of terrorism, to help the young people in Iran who are telling us their story. Look, we don't have reporters on the ground in Iran, but we do have millions of citizen journalists who, despite the internet crackdowns, are finding proxies and finding ways to get online to send us those videos. We're putting them up on the Foreign Desk around the clock to continue their story. They're telling us if we're willing to be brave enough and courageous enough to go out onto the streets and risk being killed for peaceful protests, the least you can do is be our partners in all of this and allowing us to have voices across the world to have our story told.
And you can see, folks, you can see those videos, and you can help by going to the Foreign Desk, Lisa's site. And also, we're looking at foxnews.com. Our stellar foreign affairs coverage has these videos and has these and just growing movement, and one can only hope that one day Tehran will again be free. Lisa Daftari, you have the Foreign Guest. Lisa, always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arthel?
Very important, Lisa. Thank you. Well, the nation's second largest police department is rolling out a first in the nation housing program to get more recruits to join their ranks. I will speak to the head of the department's recruiting about that bold new strategy. That's up next.
Once upon a time at the magical Everly Estate, landscaper Larry and his trusty crew were delayed when the new kid totaled his truck. Fortunately, they were covered by Progressive, so it was a happy ending for almost everyone.
Age is just a number, and mine's unlisted.
Try Boost High Protein with 20 grams of protein for muscle health versus 16 grams in Ensure High Protein. Boost High Protein also has key nutrients for immune support. Boost High Protein.
Hi, I'm attorney Don McCarty, a proud veteran who's been helping Marines and their families for decades. By now, I'm sure you've heard the news about Camp Lejeune, a new law which allows victims to file for compensation. This is different than your veteran's disability claim. There's a lot of confusing information out there, so I put together a dedicated team to answer your questions and to take your calls.
Call 800-800-2088. That's 800-800-2088. Call right now.
Science proves quality sleep is vital to your mental, emotional, and physical health. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed, it's temperature balancing so you stay cool. It senses your movements and automatically adjusts to help keep you both comfortable all night. Our smart sleepers get 28 minutes more restful sleep per night. So you're at your best for yourself and those you care about most. The Queen Sleep Number 360 C2 smart bed is only $9.99 plus 0% interest for 24 months on all smart beds and free home delivery when you add base. Ends Monday.
Oh, hey. Buying a car from Vroom is so easy. All you need is a phone and a finger. Just go to vroom.com, scroll through thousands of cars, then tap to buy. That's it. No sales speak, no wasted time. Just straight up great cars. Right from your phone to your driveway. Go to vroom.com and pick your favorite. Oh yeah, she digs it. Buy your car or not. Vroom. Get in.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base.
That's what my grandpa used to play.
When our hearing wouldn't allow us to use a regular phone, it made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear Captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it.
Making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Captions service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver, install, and train you on how to use your phone, all at no cost to you.
Give your loved ones the independence and connection they deserve.
Call now to see if you qualify to get a Clear Captions phone at no cost to you. Call 1-800-916-7705. That's 1-800-916-7705.
This is going to be great. Taking the shawl off, I did. Is he looking at my hairline?
My joint pain isn't too bad. Well, it wasn't this morning. I hope I can get through this.
Is plaque psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis making you rethink your everyday choices? Otezla is a pill, not a cream or injection, that can help people with plaque psoriasis achieve clearer skin. Otezla is proven to reduce joint swelling, tenderness, and pain in psoriatic arthritis. And no routine blood tests required. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. Otezla can cause serious allergic reactions. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Doctors have been prescribing Otezla for over 8 years. Don't hesitate. Ask your doctor about Otezla today.
Police across the country are leaving the force in alarming numbers, so departments are finding new ways to incentivize recruits. The LAPD is now offering people $1,000 a month in rent. That's so police can live in the city they serve and protect. Program for the department. It's among the first of its kind in the U.S. Christine Devine from our Fox affiliate in Los Angeles spoke to one LAPD candidate about why he's interested in joining the department.
I really hate seeing people become victims of unpredictable crimes that happen to them, and I want to be able to help them, at least navigate them to a better life.
How far is this from the academy?
This will be about 30 minutes, 25 minutes.
And right now you how far?
But we're to go from Gardena an hour of a drive.
That is a difference.
That's a big difference.
Thanks, Chris. And Captain Aaron McCraney of the LAPD joins us now. Captain, I love this concept. Tell us more. How does housing for hires work?
Well, thank you very much, Victor, for having me on. I think this is so important because, I think in Los Angeles, we offer a very competitive salary, $71,000 to start. However, as everyone knows, the state of Los Angeles can be a little bit expensive when it comes to housing. So being able to offer an additional bonus or incentive over their salary for a period of time, I think is going to be tremendous in helping them through. As it stands right now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
As it stands right now, the expectation is that $71,000 that they will be able to afford rent of approximately $1,500. And so to get decent housing in the city of Los Angeles, $1,500 can be very challenging. So we feel that by having the opportunity to have an additional $1,000 on top of their salary will help to get them through a housing crunch, at least for the first 24 months of their career.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal because like you said, I mean, $1,500 is not going to get you a lot in LA, but $2,500 a month will get you something pretty decent. And if you're talking about that amount of money, it's going to amount to $24,000 over the course of those 2 years. So that is pretty remarkable. Have you noticed an increase in applications? How many more officers would you like to hire? And are you attracting quality candidates through this program?
So we have very high goals. In the city of Los Angeles, we normally hire approximately 500 per year, but we also lose approximately 500 per year. So we pretty much end up on par or parity with each passing year. However, after the pandemic, the social unrest, the reallocation of funds, we didn't hire in 2021. And so instead of hiring approximately 500, we hired 79. So we went from having over 10,000 officers on the department to now we're under 9,300. So we have big goals, we have big numbers we have to make up for. And we feel that it's programs and incentives like this that's going to help us get there. And again, this problem is not just here in the city of Los Angeles. This is a national problem. Agencies across the nation are faced with this same issue, and they're trying to come up with some kind of incentives to get more candidates interested to come in. I can tell you that it's tough. However, we have plenty of people that want this job, plenty of people who are interested in being a police officer and want to serve the community. So I'm very encouraged and look forward to what this program is going to bring to the department.
And it's so important to have the officers live in the communities they serve. Again, so I understand that LA businessman, LAPD Commissioner Steve Soboroff came up with this idea and even recruited big money donors to fund this program. So is Mr. Soboroff in it for the long haul? I mean, how long will funding for LAPD housing for hires be available?
Well, I can tell you, Commissioner Soboroff has done a phenomenal job. What happened was that, I will report to the police commission about where we are in hiring. And, him being the business person and the real estate person that he is, he recognized the value of this program. He definitely is in for the long term. I know that he has reached out to his connections, his contacts, the people in the business world, the real estate world, and he has, and I tell you, it really primarily has to do with his push that we have raised probably over $2 million that will cover at least 100 candidates for the next 24 months. And that number is rising every day. I get people reach out to me all the time. They either want to contribute or they want to be able to offer their housing units within the city of Los Angeles.
Absolutely. I'm a fan of Mr. Soboroff. I read about things he does in LA and I'm really impressed. Okay, Captain, I want to ask you this though before we go here. You're talking about recruiting new recruits. Do you remember when you first wanted to become a police officer?
Oh, absolutely. And, I came in an interesting time. I have over 30 years on the job. So I came in for the last one, the one we had, in the early 90s. And it's something that I always wanted to do. I'm from the city of Los Angeles, born, raised, lived here my whole life. And I've always wanted to give back to the community. I always want to make that difference. And when I talk to candidates today, I hear the exact same story. I ask them, why do you want to be a police officer? They tell me The same reasons why I said I want to be a police officer. And again, it is so encouraging to me to see that from members of the community.
Well, I thank you for your service and your hard work and dedication, Captain Aaron McCraney. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
Toss another log on the fire.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hop.
Sailing a great river past extraordinary landscapes into the heart of iconic cities is a journey for the curious traveler, one that many have yet to discover. Exploring with Viking brings you closer to the world, to the history, the culture, the flavors. A serene river voyage on an elegant Viking longship. Learn more at viking.com.
It's time for the regroup. We're digging into the latest headlines circulating in your group chat, starting with that altercation between Golden State Warriors Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Apparently, people were shocked to see Green sucker punch Poole during a recent practice. Here's what Green had to say at a subsequent press conference.
I didn't handle that well, and I failed as a leader. And in turn, I failed as a man, I failed as a leader. And in turn, it's led to this. And so for me personally, I have to take what comes with that. I have to deal with that and continue to better myself as I will.
Our culture critics join me now to discuss. Shanta Smith is a media reporter and founder, MPE Media Company. And Dominique Clark is an entertainment journalist and founder of Binworthy Media. Welcome to you both. So Dominique, after issuing an apology both to his team and to Jordan Poole individually, Draymond Green said he's going to step away from the team. He's had some anger issues with teammates before. So what does he do now to repair the camaraderie there?
Well, I think he started out just right. I mean, the apology that he issued, I felt like it was genuine. It was sincere. You know, he holding himself accountable for his actions. He knew that it was wrong, right? So I'm happy to see him handling the situation in the way that he did. And I'm happy to also see the team handling the situation in the way that he did. He mentioned that he may have had some personal issues that got him fired up before this incident. So I think it's certainly appropriate for him to take a few days, and honestly, maybe a little bit more than that to get his life together.
Yeah, I'd err on the side of a little bit more than a few days. So let's switch gears to the new film Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo. Finally confirms what some say was obvious, even with your glasses. Velma's a lesbian. In this part of the film, one of America's favorite sleuths seems to be crushing big time on costume designer Coco Diablo. So, Pashunta, what was your reaction to this news?
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to see this actually in Black, seeing people are being represented actually in this classic cartoon. I'm looking forward to it. My husband and I will be tuning in.
So Dominique, this comes as HBO is developing an adult cartoon centering around Velma, starring Mindy Kaling. And so why do you think adults are still so nostalgic for the Mystery Inc.?
Yeah, I mean, we grew up with such an iconic storyline in Scooby-Doo, and so we're happy to see it back. You know, this is our childhood on screen, and so it's great to see them constantly evolving the film, now reflecting our times, the times that we live in. And like she mentioned, it's great to see that Velma gets to live her life out loud and live her truth, and so kudos to them for making this happen.
So here's the question real quick. What do you both say about all of those folks out there clutching their pearls on the idea of an LGBTQ character on a kids show? To you first, Prashita.
I just say open your heart, open your mind. You know, don't just totally throw this away. Give it some time and open up and take some time and just kind of embrace it. Again, I'm looking forward to it. I grew up on Scooby-Doo, and I think it's great. Again, people are being more represented.
Dominique, you got the last 45 seconds.
Yes, listen, kudos to them. Like I said, I am all for us living our truths and being able to live our truths out loud. It's great for our kids to see the truth of the world that we're living in, and the different type of people that make us great. You know, we're all unique. We all love differently and love different people, and we all should be able to do that and do it while being respected and with dignity. And so, like I said, kudos to them, and I can't wait to see what them.
Well, let's bring the love to this new era for the team in that Scooby-Doo world. Hhnnn Smith and Dominique Clark, we thank you both for spending a little time with us. And thank you for watching Simone on this Sunday. I'm Michael Steele. You can watch Simone right here on MSNBC every weekend at 4 p.m. Eastern. And you can also follow Simone on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton is up next after a quick break.
Love is what makes Subaru Subaru. Subaru is the National Park Foundation's largest corporate donor.
This thing, it's making you get an ice bath again.
What do you mean? These straps are mind-blowing. They collect hundreds of data points like HRV and REM sleep, so you know all you need for recovery. And you are? I'm an investor in Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives me access to NASDAQ 100 innovations like wearable training optimization tech.
How long
I'm done.
Become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ.
I'm okay.
Before investing, carefully reading, consider fund objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Selling a home is expensive and stressful. So we created our smart seller system to sell your home for top dollar and save you thousands in commissions.
I was amazed at the fact that my house sold in one day. Ideal Agents saved me in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000 in commission. The process was as easy as it gets. They are the #1 way to sell your house.
Our service is free, available nationwide, and there's zero obligation. Call us today or visit idealagent.com.
At SafeLight, we take care of vehicles with the latest technology. When my last customer discovered a crack in his car's windshield, he scheduled at SafeLight.com. SafeLight makes it easy. We're the experts at replacing your glass and recalibrating your advanced safety system.
And they recycled my old glass. Now that's a company I can trust.
Don't wait. Schedule today.
SafeLight repair, SafeLight replace.
My most important kitchen tool, my brain. So I choose Nariva Plus. Unlike some others, Nariva Plus is a multitasker supporting 6 key indicators of brain health to help keep me sharp. Nariva, think bigger.
What will you do? What will you change? Will you make something better? Will you create something entirely new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with the tools and expertise you need to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us.
Did I tell you I got my car from Carvana? Oh, 10.
Like #4, supreme meat, smoky capicola, Genoa salami, and pepperoni.
It's the dream team of meats.
I still get on my uniform. It's Subway's biggest refresh yet.
Oh, I forgot I'm hosting. So I know you and George were struggling with the possibility of having to move. How's that going?
We found a way to make bathing safer with a Kohler walk-in bath.
A Kohler walk-in bath provides a secure, spa-like bathing experience in the comfort of your own home. A Kohler walk-in bath has one of the lowest step-ins of any walk-in bath for easy entry and exit. It features textured surfaces, convenient handrails for more stability, and a wide...
See, as a disabled person, I want to make my bathing safer. You know what I mean?
Sore muscles in your feet, legs, and back. A Kohler certified installer will install everything quickly and conveniently in as little as a day.
You made us feel completely comfortable in our home. And yes, it's affordable. I wish we would have looked into it sooner.
I think I might look into one myself.
Stay in the home and life you've built for years to come. Call 1-800-985-1754 to receive $1,500 off your Kohler walk-in bath and take advantage of our special low monthly payment financing.
Good evening and welcome to Politics Nation. Tonight's lead, the quiet part out loud. Right now, with barely 4 weeks before midterm elections, Republican candidates have reverted to what has always worked for them: racism and moral hypocrisy on cue as expected. Last night, Alabama Republican Tommy Tuberville joined Donald Trump at a rally for MAGA candidates in Nevada. The sitting senator from one of the nation's blackest states said this.
The Democratic Party, they have a majority. They could stop this crime today. Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. They are not owed that.
You'll note that Tuberville stopped short of identifying just who these criminals are, just who it is the Democrats want reparative justice for. But then for his audience, identification is unnecessary, because whether it's a campaign ad or a Trump rally, GOP candidates in swing states have weaponized crime as the cudgel against Democrats. And with that, they've embraced the time-honored tradition on the right: when all else fails, blame black people, even in states that they barely live in. Of course, the irony of insurrection apologists making nakedly racist statements while criticizing Democrats for being soft on crime is not lost on me. But what gives me just as much pause as the racism is the more than half of the Republican general election candidates seeking statewide office or federal office are in denial that Joe Biden won the presidency 2 years ago. Some of them have made this theme central to their campaigns, and they're on the cusp of potentially remaking Congress. As you can tell, we're starting off strong tonight on Politics Nation, and that is no bull. Here we go. Joining me now, Congresswoman Kwesi Mfume, Democrat of Maryland. Congressman, appreciate you being here as always. I have to start off with your reaction to that sound we played at the top. Sitting Republican Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville saying that Democrats want crime, that they want to take what Republican MAGA voters have presumably, so they say, can give reparations to those responsible for crime. Of course, Tuberville is not the first or only GOP politician to employ dog whistles connecting Democrats and black people to crime ahead of next month's election. But you also have Senate races in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Republican candidates in both those races attacking Democrats over the issue. Some Democratic critics calling the attacks racist dog whistles, though in Tuberville's case, it's more like a scream. What should Democrats do in response, Congressman?
Well, Democrats should take note, first of all, that these are not things that periodically happen. It always happens right before a major national election. And his comments are about the most vicious, vile, repugnant, parochial, racist things that I've heard in a long, long time. This is how violence gets started against black people, as in the case in Buffalo, against Latinos, as in the case in Uvalde, and people who simply worship it, as in a Charleston church. Because people take that, the sick ones, and they figure that they've got to do something to extend the senator's philosophy. I would hope that every elected official on both sides of the aisle condemn that. He is a bigot, and until he says something different, he will always be seen as a bigot. But more importantly, there are a lot of black people in that state. In fact, you know, a large number of black voters who are Democrats and Republicans who are outraged, I'm sure, at this as well. So, you know, we see this, it's a playbook. It happens every time we get close to a national election. And in this instance, it has just simply gone too far. Black people have had it being the targets of crime and the targets of this and the targets of that. Every time there's a reason something is wrong, we're the ones that are responsible. And nobody's asking him to give a comment on reparations. reparations were already voted on in the Congress in the 1880s or 1980s for Japanese Americans. It's not something new. Even the bill that's there just creates a commission to study and report back. So he's couched that in the framework of they want what you have, which is what he said. They want to take what you have, which is what he implied, and they will take it and turn you around, which is the summation. It's a bad race, a bad track to get on. I would hope people speak up, and I doubt very seriously if Tuberville will ever apologize.
And let's not be confused with the reparations that is now being moved into Congress by your colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, talking about reparations for African Americans. He said that we were getting crime as reparations. So clearly, this is more than one can bear. But Congressman, going back to your former life as head of the NAACP, and I worked with you as head of National Action Network when you were there, which you championed the reform of marijuana laws, together with those of us in the civil rights community at the time, including reparative justice for communities harmed by the war on drugs. Now, I want to get your take on President Biden federally pardoning thousands of Americans incarcerated for simple marijuana possession and calling on the Departments of Justice and Health and Human Services, respectively, to review marijuana federal drug classification. What do you want to see happen next?
Well, I think people have to couch it in the right terms and to know that marijuana usage is similar, whether you are an African American, Latino, white American, or anything else. There's no disparate use because of a certain group that you're in that's racial. This situation has gone on for a long time. As you know, most of the states in the nation are moving toward decriminalizing marijuana. I think the president is doing where we are today. He's doing where states are in terms of taking a look at this and realizing that it's a health issue more than anything else, decriminalizing it to get rid of the crime and making sure that people have a chance to be able to apply for a job, be able to get employment, get an education, find themselves as a productive member of society again without being tainted by this curse of a sentence as a result of marijuana possession or marijuana usage. So he, in my opinion, is doing the right thing at the right time. He's following the states in this regard. And the whole issue of marijuana is something that the country is going to deal with, whether he deals with it or not. So I applaud his efforts in that regard.
Quickly, we're out of time, Congressman, but I want to make sure we have time to hear about this bill you and Maryland Democratic Senator Ben Cardin introduced last month to create a National Council of African American History and Culture. What does it entail, and what are you trying to push back against that's happening in red state classrooms right now?
Well, what we're trying to push back against is this notion that critical race theory is taking over our schools and destroying our kids and making some of them feel guilty. The fact that books are being removed from libraries every day, and the fact that a lot of teaching now has been conformed so that the teaching of American history does not include the contributions or the work of particularly African Americans is moving at a rapid rate. So this bill creates within the National Endowment of the Humanities and Arts an opportunity for us to create a 12-member commission designed to study and to report back on African American history and culture since the beginning of the nation. We think it's the right thing to do. Many teachers have applauded us on this, and Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland and myself have put forth that legislation.
All right, Congressman Kwesi Mfume, thank you for joining us again. Joining me now is former Attorney General under President Barack Obama, the first African-American Attorney General in the history of this country, Eric Holder, chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. Mr. Holder, first of all, we appreciate you being with us tonight. And let me get to why you're here first and foremost. The Supreme Court reconvened last week, hearing oral arguments Monday over whether to uphold Alabama's voting map, in which 6 of 7 congressional districts are majority white and Republican. Only 1 is majority black. The imbalance was noted by a federal court panel earlier this year. which joined plaintiffs in ruling that the map diminished black voters' influence by confining it to what, again, is one district in the state that is nearly 30% black, in violation of the Voting Rights Act. Alabama pled to the Supreme Court to block that ruling. In February, 5 of the court's 6 conservative justices agreed that it be revisited, allowing the map to stand during next month's election. The kicker for me is that Alabama has argued that drawing a second district for black voters would itself be racially discriminatory because it would favor black voters at the expense of other voters. Yet with all that, it appears after this past week, the conservative majority on the Supreme Court is poised to hold the map. Do you have, first of all, do I have all that right, Mr. Attorney General?
Yeah, you do have it right. I mean, African Americans comprise about 27% of the population in Alabama. The black population in Alabama is sufficiently numerous and geographically compact so that you could draw a second black opportunity district, which is consistent with the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965, interpreted by the Supreme Court previously, reauthorized overwhelmingly by Congress. And every time it was reauthorized, it was signed by a Republican president. For them to rule against the plaintiffs, and these are plaintiffs who we have supported, to rule against the plaintiffs and to rule for the state, this Supreme Court would have to reinterpret the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which, as I said, has historically had overwhelming support.
Now, Mr. Holder, according to the Washington Post, 299 of the Republican Party's candidates for Congress and top state executive positions are election deniers. That's more than half of all GOP candidates. More than 170 of them favored to win their race. In addition to holding power over state elections, election deniers. What may become a Republican-controlled House could end up choosing the next speaker who could potentially preside over another contested presidential election in 2024. How do you fight this kind of existential threat to our democracy, Mr. Holder?
Well, one of the things that we have to do is focus on making sure that we elect people at the state legislative level who are going to stand for our democracy. And here's the deal. I think that, inflation is important. Crime is obviously important. We need to deal with those issues. The price of gas, the ability to get, baby formula. But the most important thing that is on the ballot this November is our democracy itself. What kind of nation are we going to have? Half of the people, as you say, half of the people running for Congress and these important state Senate, these important state races are election deniers. If they are elected, they have already indicated they don't believe that Joe Biden won the election back in 2020, and they have pledged to use their power to try to make sure, one of them talked about having a coalition of secretaries of state to make sure that things are done, in his words, the right way the next time. And I'm sure that will probably mean something that's inconsistent with the way the people want to have the votes counted, but consistent with their ideological desires. So our democracy is on the ballot this November, and I hope that will drive people to the polls.
I want to leave some time to get your take on the current climate ahead of the midterm elections, because I respect your judgment as much as any 5 people in the country, and one of the other 5 is Mrs. Holder, but we'll talk about that off air. But Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville's comments last night at a Nevada Trump rally, suggesting that Democrats want crime so they can take from MAGA voters and give whatever it is they're taking to criminals in the form of reparations. As a veteran of the Obama administration, what's your reaction to that kind of rhetoric?
Well, people, they will show you who they are by what it is they say, by what it is that they do. I'd like to hear this senator tell us exactly who they are, who you're referring to here. He demonstrated who he is. He's a person who made a reputation as I guess, a pretty good football coach. He's a terrible senator, but a pretty good football coach on the backs of young black men, who sacrifice risked concussions and all the other things in order that he might be successful. And now, as a representative of the state of Alabama, as I said, with a 27% population that is African American, he is saying things that are at best, race tinged and at worst racist. And I think that people in the Republican Party need to take him to task. I need to hear from other Republicans criticism of what it is he said. And I want to hear other Republicans say that they're going to distance themselves from those remarks. What he says is extremely dangerous. It's the kind of thing that we have seen too often in this country, the kind of racial divisiveness, racial polarization that leads too frequently to violence. And so I would hope that we will see him, as I said, taken to task for what are some really awful remarks. And if you look at the logic of what he's saying, he sounds like a damn fool, in addition to everything else.
And the fact of the matter is, adding insult to injury, many of the crime, much of the crime that is happening is certainly not all done by blacks, and much of the crime that is done by blacks are against other blacks. So what reparations are we talking about? But let me ask you this. You were Assistant Attorney General in the 90s when many of us debated, and you certainly were part of those discussions about how we deal with drugs, how we make sure that we don't over incarcerate. How do you deal with or respond or react to President Biden's pardon of marijuana possession on a federal level this week, and calling for governors to do the same on a state level?
Well, I think that's the exact right approach. I mean, to make sure that people who have been charged with, convicted of federal possession of marijuana get pardoned. To talk about the rescheduling of marijuana, it is now a Schedule I drug, which is just absurd. And then to call on the states to make sure that they do similar kinds of things. That's consistent with what we tried to do during the Obama years when I was Attorney General, as I tried to unwind this so-called war on drugs, which has had an impact, a disproportionate negative impact on communities of color. It was unfair when you looked at the crack powder disparity and a whole range of other things. So I think that what the president did in announcing this new policy is exactly right, and it's consistent with where the nation is. The nation views marijuana use now in 2022 in a fundamentally different way than it did back in the 1990s, and our laws need to reflect this societal change in the way in which we view the use of marijuana.
No, and again, I know you took that position when you were Assistant Attorney General in the 90s, and when you became Attorney General, you tried to unwind it, and I can be a witness to that. Former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, thank you so much for being with us. Still to come, we're checking in on a historic and hotly contested Senate race in North Carolina. Democratic candidate Sherry Beasley, Judge Sherry Beasley, joins us fresh off of Friday's fiery debate. And later, President Biden pardons thousands of nonviolent marijuana offenders, and it was high time. Now the push has begun to spark a similar reform movement in the states. But first, my colleague Richard Louie with today's other top news stories. Richard?
Rev, good Sunday to you. A Russian missile attack Sunday struck an apartment block and residential buildings in the southeastern Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia. It killed at least 13 people and injured 87 others. This includes 10 children, according to Ukrainian officials. The city is home to Europe's largest power plant. South Korean officials warned North Korea's recent missile launches could signal it soon resuming nuclear testing. North Korea fired 2 short-range missiles into its eastern waters this weekend. This is the 7th launch in recent days. And Hurricane Julia made landfall this morning in Nicaragua. Life-threatening flash floods and mudslides are expected. That storm has since weakened to a tropical storm, but is still producing winds up to 70 miles an hour. More Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton right after this break.
The late fall, winter months. The way you counter that is by doing what the public health measures are, getting vaccinated and getting boosted. Influenza is a problem. The Australians, who have their flu season directly opposite ours, and what our winter is their summer and vice versa, they had a particularly bad flu season this year, which doesn't necessarily guarantee we will have a bad one, but it is strongly suggestive that we very well may have a severe flu season. Again, another indication why we should get our flu vaccine and we should get the updated BA.5 bivalent COVID vaccine. There's no reason not to do that. If you look at the numbers, Pam, of the severity of disease with hospitalizations and deaths when you compare vaccinated to unvaccinated, or even vaccinated without a boost compared to vaccinated with a boost, the vaccinated with the updated boost do much, much better when it comes to hospitalizations and deaths.
I'm curious, we talk a lot about the vaccines. What about when it comes to masking? Do you still wear a mask? What is your advice on masking at this stage?
It depends on where you are in the region that you happen to be in and the level of viral dynamics in that region. The CDC, as you know, on their website has that color code of the level of activity. And when it's high, when I'm in an indoor setting and I go to a place where the level of virus activity is high, I wear a mask. If I'm outdoors, I don't wear a mask. But if I'm in a place where we're either at a higher level or I'm not sure of what the dynamics of the virus is, I wear a mask. So it isn't as if I wear a mask all the time or never. It depends on where we are at a particular level of viral dynamics.
I want to talk about recurring infections. I've had recurring infections. Both times I've had COVID were not fun, symptomatic both times. There was an article in the New Yorker that says COVID is mutating even faster than the world's dominant flu strain. And it quotes an epidemiologist at the University of Michigan who says, "My best guess would be, and this is just a guess, that symptomatic COVID infections will eventually occur every 5 years or so." By that means many of us could get COVID 10 times or more in our lifetimes. Do you think that's an accurate guess, projection? What do you think?
I think he said it, or she said it very well. It's really just a guess, and you really can't tell. I mean, obviously, if you ask some questions that I can give you a more firm answer on, Pam, we're not going to eradicate this virus. We've only eradicated one virus in the history of public health, and that's smallpox. And that virus doesn't change very well, and you get immunity that lasts durably for decades, if not a lifetime. We likely won't even eliminate it. It'll be around at a low level because we've only eliminated a few viruses like measles and polio, because those viruses, when you get infected or you get vaccinated, the immunity lasts for decades and sometimes a lifetime. And the virus isn't the kind of virus that drifts or changes. With the virus that we're unfortunately dealing with, it does get variants. We have enough history over the last 2.5 years to know that you get successive variants as the immune system pressures the virus. And secondly, the durability of protection, at least with the vaccines that we have now, which are good, but the durability of infection of protection does not last. So I think if you're saying, are we done with COVID? The answer is going to be no. We may deal with it at a much, much lower level than we're dealing with it right now, which is what I would accept as being something that would be okay, as long as we get to a much lower level than we are right now. As per what I said a moment ago, I don't believe that 400 deaths a day is an acceptable level.
Right. Just to drill down a little bit more, how many, I mean, on average, and I know it's hard to be precise on this, but on average, how often do you expect us to get reinfected, right? I mean, what I just heard from you is that this thing isn't going away anytime soon. It's going to keep mutating. So, this person said likely, symptomatic COVID every 5 years. What is your projection, and what are the long-term concerns for these COVID reinfections? I mean, what does it do to your body long-term, your immune system?
Well, that's not necessarily the immune system, what it does to the immune system, Pam, but there is a phenomenon that we don't see with many, many other viruses. In fact, we haven't seen it to this extent with any virus, and it's this issue of the syndrome of long COVID, that when you get infected, even if you have a mild to moderate infection, there's a percentage of people ranging from anywhere from 5 to up to 20% who have the persistence of symptomatology that is not fully explainable by a definable pathogenic process. By that I mean, we don't determine anything specifically wrong, but people have profound fatigue, they have sleep disturbances, they have things called brain fog, which means they have difficulty focusing or concentrating. So if you get infected every 2 or 3 years, that still is something we're concerned about until we learn a lot more about long COVID. Coronaviruses, which have been with us forever, the common cold coronaviruses, if COVID acts like that, then we get reinfected with coronaviruses every few years. So to say that we can expect, unless we get a vaccine and people utilize the vaccine that's highly protective, it very well that we may, over a period of years, have repetitive infections with COVID virus, which is, as I mentioned, when you're dealing with long COVID, something we have to be concerned about.
Yeah, that's the risk. I know when I was reinfected last August, I felt horrible, but also I was so worried. I thought, okay, well, now am I going to get long COVID? You don't know, right? Until you kind of go through the steps and then you recover, hopefully, and it's kind of a relief. But then the worry stays, right? Because you're probably going to get reinfected down the road, and that's the risk. I want to ask you, before we let you go, Dr. Fauci, about misinformation and how it is still complicating the picture. For example, Twitter took down and then restored this tweet from Florida Surgeon General saying, quote, "Today we release an analysis on COVID-19 mRNA vaccines the public needs to be aware of. This analysis showed an increased risk of cardiac-related death among men 18 to 39. Florida will not be silent on the truth." What do you make of that, Dr. Fauci?
Well, there's a lot of conflicting evidence in the opposite of that's not the case. I mean, someone could make a statement of that. I would like to see, besides the statement, the study, the well-done study that actually shows that. But in a more broad, generic way, Pam, one of the real problems we have is that, forgetting that statement and just think about in general, that there's enough misinformation and disinformation, particularly on the social media, that makes it very difficult to capture the public's attention about what the reality is, particularly when you're dealing with a transforming pandemic the way we're dealing with right now. The enemy of public health when you're dealing with a pandemic is misinformation and disinformation, and unfortunately, we have plenty of that.
Yeah, we still do. And it's cost lives, no doubt. Dr. Anthony Fauci, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is my first time having the opportunity to talk with you, and I hope you'll come back as well.
Thank you, Pam. It's good to be with you.
Well, you are in the CNN newsroom. Up next, why the president's commitment to pardoning people for marijuana possession brings with it a major logistical challenge. A prison minister from Georgia tells me what's at stake in that conversation coming up next.
And took thousands of dollars from Big Pharma. The reality is Congressman Bud has shown who he is. He does not speak for North Carolina. And for all the ways in which people need the next senator to be responsive, he has not done so. And when people show you who they are, you better believe them. I would ask your audience to please, for more information about my campaign, to please go to SherryBeasley.com. Democracy is on the line, and we've got to fight back and make sure that not only that we're successful for today, but this election is so important for our future.
We're out of time, but let me ask you this briefly. To date, there have been only 11 Black U.S. senators elected in the nation's history, and 2 were Black women. What would it mean to you not only to represent the Tar Heel state you love, but also become one of the few Black women to ever hold this position?
I'm not at all. I'm not. It doesn't fall short on me that representation really does matter in all of our government entities, whether it's the Supreme Court or the U.S. Senate. And I certainly know that there are a whole host of issues that I'm prepared to fight for North Carolina. It's important that we have diversity and our talents represented at the table. And while it's important that how the Senate looks, it is also important how the Senate works. And what I know is that it is absolutely not working for North Carolina.
All right, Sherry Beasley, the Democratic candidate for Senate in North Carolina. Thank you for being with us. Still ahead, Donald Trump told his supporters to fight like hell, and some of them did. The January 6th committee is gearing up to make its strongest case yet against the former president. Our political panel will have a preview next.
Chain, easy to use tools, and paper trading to help sharpen your skills, you can stay on top of the market from wherever you are. E-Trade from Morgan.
Should want on all accounts, no matter who the individual is. But Sean, I'm glad you said that about nobody wants, and I can say this as a member of a former First Family, I think it's terrible when the family of a president or someone in a major position is targeted. I think that is always a bad thing, and it's terrible to see. The difference here, as you point out, is that Hunter Biden is tied directly to Joe Biden as the big guy, and there's China, and there's Russia, and there's Ukraine, and there are major concerns that we have as American citizens. Is our president compromised? And no one has been able to answer those questions. That's the problem.
And to that point, let's play Jim Jordan.
In 2016, they spied on President Trump's campaign. In 2018, it was the Mueller investigation. In 2020, they suppressed information about the Hunter Biden laptop. And now in 2020, they've raided the home of the former president, taken the phone of a sitting member of Congress 91 days before an election. So when is the FBI not going to involve themselves in one of our elections? That's probably a key question. We're going to do everything we can to hold these folks accountable. And if we have the majority, bring them in front of Congress, do the depositions that need to be done so we can get the facts.
Now, Sean, they can do all the hearings they want, but the FBI has to still cooperate. The IRS and any of these other agencies, they have to cooperate. They're now under the leadership of Joe Biden. I think we're going to really get something done if Republicans take the majority.
I think what's going to happen is Republicans are going to hold one
solar system and save you thousands in commissions.
and money speaks in Washington. And so I do think they're going to get compliance at some point. Now they'll try to drag their feet. But again, all of this effort is going in because Joe Biden is afraid himself. He's afraid for his political career. He's afraid about the money he's made from his son. And therefore, he has to hire big people to come in with big salaries at taxpayers' expense to protect his political hide, not to protect his son.
And he should be afraid because we're not going to let up. Coming up, first, Stacey Abrams said there's no such thing as a heartbeat at 6 weeks. Now this.
It is a fallacy. We know exactly when a pregnancy starts.
We talk about the Stacey Abrams shocking comments next. Stay with us.
Skechers massage fit.
President Biden took a major step this week to start the process of decriminalizing marijuana, fulfilling a campaign promise. The president pardoned all prior federal offenses for simple marijuana possession, but not drug dealers. Though no one is currently serving federal prison time for only simple marijuana possession, there are thousands who have been charged with that crime and have it on their record. Pastor Tony Loudon joins us now. He serves in the Maranatha Baptist Church in Plains, Georgia, where former President Jimmy Carter is a member. He is also the former White House Executive Director of the Federal Interagency Council on Crime Prevention and Improving Reentry. Pastor Loudon, thanks for coming on. I know this subject is very close to you. You have served as a prison minister in Georgia. What is the significance of this move? I mean, I know I mentioned none of these people are actually in prison, but they're still going to have to reintegrate with these pardons. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely, Pam, because a lot of times when we release people from prison, or if they have a felony on their record, or if they're on probation, we do not fully look at ways of trying to reintegrate them back into society. If a person has a felony, a drug felony on their record, and they come from public housing, 9 times out of 10, they no longer can go back into public housing. HUD refuses to allow them to have housing if you have a drug offense on your record. Sometimes a lot of people that have those felonies, drug felonies, they cannot get jobs. We got to look at ways as a holistic approach, especially when we have this great resignation of people not wanting to work. To look at ways of being able to have people getting back into our workforce, come out of the shadows and work, and then a fully reintegration model. And that's why I'm glad I'm working for a company called Bypass. We're doing that on the inside of prisons as well on the outside. When you have a felony, you got to ask the question, how do I feed my family? A felony should not push you into a lifetime of poverty because you have a simple marijuana felony on your record. We should look at ways of reintegrating them back into society.
So those eligible for the pardons would receive a certificate showing that they had been officially forgiven for their crime. Do you think that's enough?
No, I think we got to take it another step further. I think we also have to look at ways of getting all the courts to look at ways of expunging their records, because 9 times out of 10 it still may show up. We got to get the companies involved in saying, I'm willing to hire individuals who have had a drug offense on their record. We got to look at ways of being able to address what we call all the collateral consequences that takes place with that. More importantly, we got to look at ways of saying, are we really ready for reintegrations? I think I said to you during the break about our veterans who are very important to me. They come home from the longest war and they self-medicate. They end up getting a felony. And they end up living on our streets because they can't get a job. Or they end up coming into our prisons because they're justice involved. We have to look at ways of having a holistic approach. 78 million people in America has felonies. Now, a lot of them are drug felonies. We got to look at ways of saying, how do we bring those numbers down? How do we get all 17 federal agencies to work together, as well as the local agencies, to reintegrate people back in society? We felt that when we had the pandemic, when we couldn't get people to work, and we needed people to work to keep our economy going. That's why at BIPAC, we came up with a website that's called a reintegration website, where even after you're out of prison, you can log onto our website and take all the courses that you had while you were incarcerated. No interruptions to services. Just because we let a person out of prison or we get a person off of probation, they still need to reintegrate back in our society. And that's what we should do. If we don't do that, we have to ask ourselves, are we truly a country that want to give people second chances?
Pastor Tony Loudon, really great to have you on tonight. Thank you.
Pam, thank you so much.
Well, 30 days until the midterms, it looks like some Republicans have now seen the light on the real outcome of the 2020 election. Why the sudden change of heart? For the Record is next.
Well, first let me say about the January 6th committee, I too am looking for them to essentially make an indictment, not a legal indictment, but an indictment of Donald Trump. That's where this is all leading to, because many people have been convicted, including someone who got a 9-year sentence who never entered the Capitol building because he was seen as coordinating events that led to the breach of the Capitol building and the fighting against the Capitol Police. Now, Donald Trump is in that category. And so I think they're going to lay out Donald Trump's culpability in all this in a very powerful way. In terms of midterm elections, I think anybody who says they know exactly what's going to happen doesn't know what they're talking about. But there are two major issues, and one is an economic issue. The other is the Dobbs decision. A month ago, the Dobbs decision was quite strong, and Democrats certainly polled that they were going to vote based on the Dobbs decision. Since then, the intensity of that issue has diminished. It's still strong, but it's not as strong as it was. And in the end, most Republicans and most independents still look at pocketbook issues. So do the Democrats, of course, and they're hit by them every day. So gas prices have come down a little bit, but overall, food prices, gas prices, inflation is quite high. That impacts people's ability to spend money in which they want or make ends meet, if you will. So I think that's probably strong for the Republicans in the closing of weeks of this campaign.
Let me stay with you a minute, Rick. This Tuesday, Senators Rick Scott and Tom Cotton are going to rally for Herschel Walker, Senate candidate in Georgia. Now, this comes as Donald Trump's super PAC is swooping in at the last minute to buy ads for the Georgia Republican Senate candidate following a bruising week of headlines. What do you make of Republicans' unwavering support of Walker in the wake of the recent allegations against him?
Well, it's interesting because the Republicans abandoned Todd Akin for a mere utterance and not an act. But here they are backing up Herschel Walker, and it all has to do with power. Herschel Walker will be on the ballot. There's no possibility of removing him from the ballot, so they're going to try to get him across the finish line any way they can. But they are looking rather hypocritical doing so.
Kimberly, Alabama's Senator Tommy Tuberville delivered an overtly racist statement during his speech at a Trump rally last night in Nevada, where he mentioned Democrats offer reparations owed to people who do crimes. What does statements like that, what does it say about the politics of today? Are some Republicans willing to lean more into racist rhetoric to appeal to their base?
In a word, yes. I mean, I think they believe that what has worked in the past is fear and demonization. We saw that with Donald Trump, most clearly talking about building the wall and how people who cross the border from southern countries are rapists and murderers. It's easy to use fear to get the idea that people of color who are just entitled to equal rights as everyone else, and lawmakers who are trying to ensure that are trying to give something to scary people. And Black people have been demonized as scary for the entire history of our nation. And that's a playbook that Republicans have repeatedly gone to, the same way that with Herschel Walker, they're hoping that the same thing that happened after Donald Trump's Access Hollywood tape was released would happen again, which is voters wouldn't care. I'm not sure that they don't. I'm not sure that the Republican establishment may be behind these kinds of tactics. I'm not sure that all Republican voters are. And one thing that I'm taking some hope in, and that's all I can have, is that when we talk about concern for democracy being a big issue on the minds of voters, it's not just on the minds of Democratic voters, although the percentage is higher on that side. Republicans are concerned about that too. Yes. So what that means is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe they think it has to do with election fraud or something. But I talk to Republicans who are genuinely concerned with democracy. Gas prices go up and down, but democracy is fragile, and if that's broken, that's difficult to repair. So I'm hoping that this time around that the regular playbook doesn't work the exact same way, but I think Rick is right. We won't know until the election results are counted.
Kimberly Atkins and Rick Tyler, thank you both for being with us. Coming up, legalized weed has a big business, and it has been big business in many states for several years. But it took until this week for an American president to start repairing the damage unjust marijuana laws have done to African Americans across this country. We're going to be talking about much needed next steps when we come right back.
Meantime, Don Bolduc, during an August New Hampshire debate, said the 2020 election was stolen. But then last month, after Bolduc won the Republican primary, mostly due to his MAGA politics and Trump supporters, he reversed his position on Fox News.
I signed a letter with 120 other generals and admirals saying that Trump won the election, and damn it, I stand by my election.
Do you stand by that today?
So, you know, we live and learn, right? And I've done a lot of research on this, and I've spent the past couple of weeks talking to Granite Staters all over the state from every party. And I have come to the conclusion, and I want to be definitive on this: the election was not stolen.
Last Tuesday, Bolduc also told the Washington Post, quote, Biden is the legal president of the United States. Now, for the record, the Washington Post points out a majority of GOP nominees, a whopping 299 in total, deny the 2020 election results. It remains to be seen whether telling the truth will actually affect the voters they're trying to influence before they cast their ballots on November 8th.
Airwick scented oils are infused with natural essential oils to create a...
Not just some of the time. That's why we're introducing a limited lifetime warranty on all of our repairs. We are dedicated to improving the lives of our families our employees, our customers, and our community. We're in this for life. For the best service under the sun, come to Sun Automotive.
Age before beauty? Why not both? Visibly Definitive.
The only brand with real honey and elderberry.
Al Sharpton. Now one day I stay inside. Stay on my last ride. I went and I didn't know how to go, but on that TV yet. Or Al Sharpton. Left and down something.
Going to shoot me. That was my foul.
These midterms are critical. I'm Tremaine Lee. Join me as I talk to students who represent a new generation of Black voters. Into America presents The Power of the Black Vote, a town hall discussion now streaming on Peacock, and a 5-part podcast series.
Welcome back to Politics Nation. President Joe Biden announced on Thursday that he will grant pardons to thousands of Americans charged with simple marijuana possession. He also ordered a review of federal marijuana regulations and urged state governors to take similar actions. Our next guest has been at the forefront of the fight for reform of the country's marijuana laws. We're joined by Congressman Troy Carter, who represents Louisiana's 2nd District. Congressman, you are the lead sponsor of the bipartisan Marijuana Misdemeanor and Expungement Act, which seeks to clear the records of the people who have been pardoned by President Joe Biden's executive order. Why do you feel it's crucial to take this one step further to clear the records of the thousands of people who have been charged for simple marijuana offenses?
Thank you very much, Reverend Al, for having us here to talk about this very important issue. The expungement is the natural next step. Having a pardon obviously is huge, and I applaud the president for this action. We were in the White House and able to talk about this very thing. I'm very happy and very proud and honored that the president is moving forward with the pardons. But the natural next step is the expungement, because we know that people that have these cases on their record can't access federal loans in some cases, can't access jobs in some cases, can't access housing in many cases. So this gives us an opportunity to have a clean start, particularly given that in some 38 states, marijuana in some shape, form, or fashion has been legalized. And so to have people that are still saddled with this mark, when we know that the prosecutions have been disproportionately heavier in communities of Black and Brown, this is an opportunity to set the record straight and to balance the scales, if you will, in the way of true justice.
Now, the decades-long war on drugs has led to an explosion of the prison population, mostly targeting Black and Latino communities. Following the announcement on Thursday, activists and lawmakers said that these marijuana pardons represent a step forward, racial equity with this executive action. President Biden said he was trying to address decades of discriminatory drug policies that disproportionately hurt or harm people of color. Now, studies have found that despite similar consumption patterns, Black Americans are nearly 4 times as likely as whites to be arrested for marijuana-related violations, though they have the same pattern of using and possessing marijuana. What is your take on this, Congressman?
We see that every day. We have seen it for years, and unfortunately, we still see that level of disproportionate prosecution, disproportionate arrest, disproportionate challenges or arresting individuals or probable cause. And oftentimes that is a use that turns into something that's escalated that ends up being dangerous and deadly. So we know that taking away these tools, if you will, for, let's say, road cops who are looking for reasons to pick a certain segment out to challenge them or to abuse their rights. We're balancing that field to make it level. This is all a part of the criminal justice reform. This is all about making sure that people are not being held in prisons for misdemeanors or being labeled for the rest of their lives for something, again, that is legal. And I underscore that is legal, and people are making millions of dollars in our country legally selling cannabis, yet people in many communities are still treated as if it were a drug that were being prosecuted at the fullest extent. We also know that the president is asking that there's a revisitation on the schedule. We know that marijuana, believe it or not, is actually scheduled in the same class with heroin, higher than fentanyl. And fentanyl is about as deadly a drug as you can get. Yes, sir. Higher.
Let me say something on the point you just touched on. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on Thursday that he won't consider President Biden's call for governors to pardon simple state possession offenses. His opponent, Beto O'Rourke, said he would. Now, meanwhile, research shows that support for legal marijuana is currently at a record high of 68%. Recreational marijuana use is currently legal in 19 states and is decriminalized in 27. As you've been a proponent of marijuana legalization in your state of Louisiana, what do you think is stopping more states from legalizing the substance?
I'd be honest with you in telling you that I think a part of what has been slowing the process down is some are waiting on figuring out how they can monetize it. We've seen this happen with casino gambling. We've seen this happen in many cases where the engine to slow down an enterprise until some have an opportunity to figure out how to capture or monetize it instead of allowing the marketplace to determine it. Many states have allowed the marketplace, and I think that's what we should do. And I think what ends up happening, why you find this slow roll into these things, and not necessarily because of a disbelief in the efficacy of the legislation, many times it's because of an effort to control the economic engine of it.
Congressman, while I have you, Senator John Kennedy, who represents your state of Louisiana, recently released a new ad campaign, a campaign ad, I should say, as he seeks re-election this midterm season. In it, he uses language that underscores rhetoric on the war on drugs, saying, quote, "If you hate cops just because they're cops, the next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead." What's your reaction to an ad like that?
I think it's unfortunate that Senator Kennedy chooses to blow the dog whistle of racism. Listen, we all recognize that there are good cops and there are bad cops. But to somehow suggest and to use this dog whistle of an attack, to use hurtful language about an issue that we know is in fact as much an issue as the opioid crises. When people were addicted to crack in the mid-'80s, it was, oh, lock them up. But then when it became an issue of opioids, then we recognized, wait a minute, there's an illness associated with this. Well, the same thing is applicable for those people that are addicted to crack cocaine. We now recognize that we should do something about it by providing treatment. Arrest people who break laws and commit crimes, and people who are addicted to drugs should get treatment. Yeah. And for Senator Kennedy to try to use this as a political ploy, it's unfortunate, unnecessary, and it doesn't do any good to unifying our country or moving forward with the resources we have to protect and to serve.
Congressman Troy Carter, you succeeded a very effective congressman in Cedric Richmond, and I told him that it's going to be hard once he left and went to the White House, and he said, you ought to see the guy coming behind me. And the early forecast has been very positive. I heard a lot about you last week. but we both were at the Congressional Black Caucus. Thank you for being with us. Up next, my final thoughts. Stay with us.
Selling experience with a network of the most successful real estate agents in America that'll sell your home for as little as a 2% commission. Can occur that can be severe. Tell your doctor about new or worsening eye problems such as eye pain or vision changes, including blurred vision, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop asthma medicines without talking to your doctor. Ask your doctor about Dupixent.
Hi, I'm attorney Don McCarty, a proud veteran who's been helping Marines and their families for decades. I'm sure you've been overwhelmed lately by all the advertising regarding Camp-Lejeune. Everywhere you turn, someone's offered to help file a claim. But don't be confused by that advertising. If you have a claim, you need real help. You have real questions. Call me and get the answers. Call 800-800-9097. That's 800-800-9097. Call right now. Trelegy for COPD.
Birds flying high in a laughing, breeze drifting on.
If you've been playing down your COPD,
It's a new dawn, it's a new day.
it's time to make a stand. Start a new day with Trelegy.
And I'm feeling good.
No once-daily COPD medicine has the power to treat COPD in as many ways as Trelegy. With 3 medicines in 1 inhaler, Trelegy helps people breathe easier and improves lung function. It also helps prevent future flare-ups. Trelegy won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Do not take Trelegy more than prescribed. Trelegy may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur. Take a stand and start a new day with Trelegy. Ask your doctor about once daily Trelegy and save at Trelegy.com.
Your record label is taking off, but so is your sound engineer. You need to hire.
Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Who's Talking is my new one-on-one interview show with some of the biggest names around that you'll see in a whole new light.
Who's Talking to Chris Wallace tonight at 7 on CNN.
Now, there are even more reasons to celebrate with Spectrum Mobile, because you can get our best deal yet. Unlimited talk, text, and data on your first line and every line for just $29.99 a line. Call 833-261-2999. Switch and save up to 60% on your mobile bill. Now that's worth celebrating. Plus, enjoy nationwide 5G and the most reliable service coast to coast. Get Spectrum Mobile with unlimited for $29.99 a line. Call 833-261-2999. With Spectrum Mobile, your options are truly unlimited, and that includes no contracts, no added taxes, and no hidden fees. Choose from a variety of the latest phones, or bring your own. Join the nation's fastest growing mobile provider and get our best deal on mobile. Unlimited talk, text, and data for just $29.99, all with no contracts, no added taxes, and no hidden fees. Call 833-261-2999. Click SpectrumMobile.com or visit a Spectrum store near you.
CNN Tonight with Jay Tepper begins Tuesday at 9.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
Formula One race car driver Max Verstappen can celebrate tonight.
Brady Giselle Bundchen last Thursday, she was spotted in Miami without her wedding ring, just days after reports surfaced that they hired.
I preached this morning at Howard University here in Washington, and I'm doing other colleges. I speak at Morehouse College later this week. I'm saying to young people, you have 4 weeks to the midterm elections, and you and your parents and everybody you know needs to vote. Why? Because when you have people like governors standing up using straight out racial references, calling reparations something that is aligned with crime, when you have senators saying crackheads is who you should call next time there's a crime, they are not even trying to be subtle. And they're guessing and hoping that you won't vote in numbers that will stop them. When they've taken women's right to choose, you have got to vote in big numbers. You want to know who's on the ballot? You are. I'm not telling you to vote for. I'm telling you, come and vote for yourself and protect your interests. Anything else is not acceptable. That does it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here next weekend at 5 p.m. Eastern. American Voices with Alicia Menendez, my friend, starts right now on MSNBC.
Thank you so much, Reverend Sharpton. Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Menendez, and we begin this Sunday with a look at the next, possibly final public hearing by the January 6th committee. Committee member Jamie Raskin says the hearing's focus will connect all the dots to the biggest threat to our democracy.
The central culpability of Donald Trump is how we began the story, and in some sense it has to end there. I do hope that we will be able to underscore the continuing clear and present danger that democratic institutions and the right to vote face in America because of this onslaught unleashed by Donald Trump.
Current, clear, and present danger. Thursday's hearings will also highlight the role of ex-Trump advisor Roger Stone, using clips from an unreleased documentary called A Storm Foretold. In the film, Stone lays out exactly how Trump planned to steal the election.
Obstacles are these lily-livered, weak-kneed bureaucrats in the White House counsel's office, and now they must be crushed.
What they're assuming is the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing. I'm challenging all of it. And the judges we're going to are judges I appointed.
Roger Stone is already tied to a major January 6th case, the seditious conspiracy trial for 5 members of the far-right Oath Keepers. The militia's group chat was nicknamed Friends of Stone, and they served as his security guards just before the Capitol attack. Testimony resumes tomorrow in the Oath Keepers trial. Joining me now, Hugo Lowell, congressional reporter for The Guardian, and Lisa Rubin, MSNBC legal analyst. Hugo, we played those documentary clips for you last Sunday, so forgive us if you were having a case of deja vu. We first learned then that they would be part of the January 6th hearing. What other evidence is the committee likely to share?
I think it's really going to be centered on the clips. There's about 6 to 8 minutes worth of clips that the January 6th committee got from Christoph Gulbrandsen, the Danish filmmaker who kind of followed Stone through the end of November 2020 towards January 6th and all of his activities, calling various reporters, calling various people connected to the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. And it's really going to be centered on these political operatives outside of the White House, outside of the administration, who played such key roles in the fomenting of the language and the unrest leading up to January 6th. I think they will play center stage. The committee also has a number of unanswered questions that they want to get into. It's not clear whether they will feature at the hearing, but some of those include stuff like, why Trump fired Secretary of Defense Esper shortly around the time of the election, that laid the groundwork for January 6th to take place.
Right, a reminder that you're offering us of the fact that really it is not that there are still questions left unanswered. That's not why this is wrapping up. We're really all about timeline here. Lisa, the forthcoming book, Unchecked, reveals top Democrats regretted not calling witnesses during Trump's second impeachment. And I wonder how well you think the January 6th committee has made up for that missed opportunity. Have they learned from what they've watched?
I certainly think that they have learned from what they watched and from what they experienced. Jamie Raskin, perhaps most of all. In that reporting, Alicia, that you just referred to, there are the seeds of what became those January 6th committee hearings, where we heard from a series of witnesses that Congressman Raskin and his staff first looked into in connection with the second impeachment, namely Mark Short and others in Pence's world, as well as someone who never did end up testifying, Congresswoman Bueller. But that having been said, I think they learned their lesson well from this.